And good morning. Happy holidays. Welcome to the program. My name is Stan Kelly. And our topic this morning, well, over the years, San Antonio has grown into a major hub, medical hub for South Texas. UT Health Science Center has been recognized as one of the premier medical schools in the country and have used what's become Brooke Army Medical Center, which has become a leader in serving military medicine. And besides providing treatment to patients and educating new doctors and nurses, San Antonio has become a major hub for medical research and drug development. And it all kind of goes all hand in hand, complementing each other. Our guest this morning is Dr. Douglas Denham of Clinical Trials of Texas. And Doc, welcome to the program. Happy holidays to you.
Good morning. Thank you. Same to you.
Doc, first tell us a little bit about yourself. How you came to San Antonio, how you got involved with Clinical Trials of Texas.
I'm a family practice doc. I did my training in medical school up in Fort Worth and did my residency here at the University of San Antonio at the Health Science Center. Served in the Air Force for 4 years here at Randolph Air Force Base, and then I've been in private practice with the groups or by myself for almost 20 years now. And then I started back in clinical research about 6 years ago, working predominantly in a diabetes arena, and then about 3 years ago started with Clinical Trials of Texas, and we do a little bit of everything there. I still do a predominant amount of diabetes research there.
What led you from being a practitioner, a physician, to going over to the research and clinical side?
Couple of things. Being in private practice is tough, and it was kind of difficult that way, and my wife wasn't real happy with the paycheck that was coming in, and research allowed me to do that. And Dr. Schwartz is the doctor that contacted me and got me involved with diabetes research here in town. He's been an endocrinologist in this city and probably one of the leaders in diabetes research in this country for a number of years. So it was a good transition for me, and I still have a practice on the side and just keep my fingers in the pie that way. But research is my full-time job.
What type of transition, how was that transition? How comfortable was that to make, to kind of back off from being a practitioner and making that transition into clinical trials and research?
It's a little different. Yes, you're not focusing on treating the illness. A patient comes in with high blood pressure or higher than I want it to be. In my office, I'd say, okay, we need to do something about this. In a study, you're not going to do those kind of things. Obviously, we want to be sure that it's safe for the patient to continue, but you're really focusing on what that particular trial is looking at. So you try not to make changes in a research study. You're focusing on what does the medication do, and so we don't want to change anything else. So it is a little different. It's a different hat sometimes, I like to say, but ultimately, though, the patient's safety is always our primary concern.
For listeners who may not be medical professionals, talk a little bit about the creation of Clinical Trials of Texas here in San Antonio, its relationship with the hospitals, with how it fits into our medical community here in South Texas.
Okay, well, Clinical Trials of Texas was founded by Kay Scroggin, and Kay is a nurse who's been doing diabetes research for a number of years. She started her own company about 11 years ago now. We are privately owned, so we're not affiliated with any hospitals directly. We do some studies within hospitals, working with their IRBs and physicians in the hospitals.
What's IRB?
Institutional Review Board.
Okay.
We can talk about that a little bit later.
Okay.
I'd love to let people know about that. And then in terms of medical care and research, they go hand in hand. All the drugs that you receive as a patient have all gone through the research process. So they have to go through that to be approved by the FDA to prove that they're effective, they're safe to give to patients, and they'll do what we want them to do. So it's an interesting process and ultimately leads to better health care.
Dr. Doug Denham of Texas Clinical Trials is our guest this morning. Doc, walk us through the process of a clinical trial. You're, I guess, initially hired by someone to do some type of research project. How exactly does that happen?
Okay. Well, research is a pretty long, in-depth process. So initially, a pharmaceutical company will be working on medication or looking at a indication for a medication, say diabetes. and their chemists will be working on different chemicals that work to affect the diabetes process. How to get insulin secreted by the beta cells, how to make the insulin receptors work better, some other mechanism that may affect another body hormone that affects your diabetes. Once they find a molecule that they think will do something that would be beneficial and could be a potential treatment for diabetes, then they'll go into animal research. They'll test it on animals to make sure, again, to see if it's doing what they think it's going to do. After they've gotten enough data on different animal models that they feel this is a medication that would be beneficial to human beings, they apply to the FDA for a permit to actually start testing in humans, and that's where we come in. So one of the big pharma companies who has a new product will contact us and ask us if we'd like to participate in a trial. They have what's called a protocol. It's a document that outlines exactly what they're going to do with this research study, the medications, the types of criteria that they're looking at for the patients. When you do a trial, you have to meet what we call inclusion and exclusion criteria. So, such as, is your blood pressure controlled? Are you on certain medications? Do you have the indication, the illness that they're looking for? Usually early on in this process, the initial trials are what we call phase 1 trials. They're usually inpatient trials where we can kind of control the whole situation. We control what the patient eats, drinks, what they're doing, just try to narrow down all the different factors that could be affecting the medication. And then we'll give them the medication, and then we draw blood on them periodically, measuring the concentrations in the blood, looking for side effects that they may be experiencing. And these will go on a week, 2 weeks sometimes. And they're very short trials. And from that, we're getting safety information. They're looking at different doses and things like that. The next series of trials, then after they get that information and it still looks like it's a drug that's going to do what they wanted it to do, they'll go into the phase 2 trials, which are a little bit bigger trials. Again, they can be inpatient or inpatient and outpatient trials. These are looking at dosages to see what kind of efficacy. Does it bring your blood sugar down? Will it bring your A1C down? What other side effects do we pick up? Does it make your triglycerides go up, down, those kinds of things? All these other things that they want to learn about the drug. And again, we're still collecting safety data to make sure that we're not having other problems. If the data from those trials still continues to look good and it looks like it's a drug that may be a benefit, they go into what we call phase 3 trials. These are, again, more outpatient trials, larger populations of patients. Again, trying to collect a large amount of information to show that it does drop your A1C down. It does not make your hair fall out or other things like that.
Sure.
And then that data then is usually used to go to the FDA to get approval to put the drug on market. The last series of drugs or studies is phase 4. Those are generally just kind of ongoing safety and efficacy trials.
Now, is your agency involved in all those different phases of trials?
We are.
Is there...
Yeah, we predominantly do the outpatient trials, but we've started doing more of the inpatient trials, and it's real interesting because you're kind of on the cutting edge. You're actually seeing these things first start at them. So,
is the primary focus of clinical trials of Texas? Is it mainly focusing on diabetes research?
No, we do all kinds. We have a large women's health division where we work with several of the large OB-GYN groups in town. We have a psychiatry division that works with several psychiatrists in town. We do lipid research. We do device research. We've had several companies that we work with looking at epilepsy, some measurements for that, drug pumps that we're used to put medicine for patients. So we do a little bit of everything.
Dr. Doug Denham of Texas Clinical Trials is our guest this morning. In order to do medical trials, you need people. And how does that screening process work? Do doctors refer some of their patients? Do you put the word out over the internet? How does that whole process work where you get the people that you need to get in order to do effective trials?
That's the toughest part about trials sometimes is getting people into the trial. We do have some physicians, like I said, that we work with that refer their patients. We have a website where people will check in that are interested in doing research so they can see what trials we do. We do some advertising on radio and TV. You'll see those periodically for different trials. So we do a little bit of everything. It's the most difficult part of trials, to be honest with you.
As far as getting the qualified people that you need to participate in the trials, how does that screening process work as far as their physical condition, their past health? Have they been drug users in the past? What is involved there? What type of questionnaire? What do they have to do?
Okay. So say you're diabetic and you're looking for a diabetes trial. You look at our website and you see that we have a trial. You'll call in. One of our recruiters will talk with you. They'll take a brief history and see if it looks like you meet most of the criteria. If you do, they'll make an appointment for you to come in and see one of our coordinators who's running the trial. They do a complete history on you. We'll get all that information on you, make sure, again, that you kind of meet things. Before you actually do any procedures with the patient, you have to do what we call an informed consent. It's a document that's provided that tells the patient everything that's going to happen to them, what the drug does, what the expectations are, risks and benefit-wise, what they'll be compensated for the time and trouble to come due. And they have to sign that, and that's basically just letting them know that they've been informed. That's a protection that the government has put in place so everybody, has their eyes wide open when they go into a trial.
Sure.
And then we do, if they still continues to look like they'll meet the criteria, then we usually do some blood samples to check for liver function, hepatitis, anemia, any other, kidney ailments, things that they may not even be aware of, quite honestly. And then if everything comes back and they look like they meet all those inclusion criteria we talked about for the study, they can be enrolled in the trial.
What about family history? And is that question asked? And have your parents suffered any heart conditions, or have they had diabetes problems in the past, or?
That's all pertinent information in terms, but usually exclusionary types of things for that would be history of certain types of cancers and things like that. Again, depending on what the medication is intended for.
What is the actual, in general terms, whether it be for diabetes or any other type of screening or whatever, once that particular client is qualified and enters the trial, just give us a general overview of what happens to them.
Okay. So once they've met all the inclusion-exclusion criteria and they've been enrolled in the trial, they'll generally be given, the medication that they're going to be trying for us. It may be actual medicine or it may be a placebo, depending on the type of trial. So a placebo is just an inert substance. So we're testing, it allows us to kind of test within the trial, does the drug do what we want it to do against the regular population? So that's our control people. Depending on what the trial, like say if it's a phase 1 trial, you come into our unit, you'll stay, we give you the medication, we do the blood tests and all those kind of things on a certain schedule. Just looking at how the drug is absorbed. They'll measure that in the blood over a time period, so it allows them to kind of see how the body metabolizes the drug. And
now, do they come in are they there for like a couple hours? Are they there all day? Do they stay overnight?
Yeah, for a phase 1 trial, they'll stay in several days. They'll stay overnight. We have a place for them to sleep, and we do those things. We feed them. We do all those things for them. Outpatient types of trials, phase 2 and phase 3 trials, they may come in for a couple of hours during the day. Usually the first visit may be 4 or 5 hours to get all, like I say, the history, the physical, all the blood trial, and all that. That's the longest visit. After that, you may just come in for a 10 or 15-minute visit, check, make sure you're not having any problems, refill your medications, maybe draw a blood sample again to see what's going on, and then out the door you go. So it really kind of depends on the type of trial as to how much time you put into you have to put into it. But again, with the informed consent process, you're made aware of that. So at the very beginning, what do we expect of you?
Well, and generally, in general terms, what is the commitment that the client has to make as far as the different types of trials? As far as their commitment, I promised that I'm committed to you for the next 90 days, that I'm going to come in every single once or twice a week, or I'm going to be spending the next week there, or how does that work?
Well, again, it depends on the trial.
Yeah.
Some trials are long. We have trials that go 3 or 4 years. We have trials that are 6 months. We have trials that are a month. Okay, so it really depends. And again, the informed consent lays that all out for you, so from the get-go. And it's not written in stone. I mean, this is a volunteer. You're a volunteer subject, okay? So we can't come and drag you back into the clinic if you're late for an appointment. But the expectation is that, you're doing this because you want to be involved. You want to help find maybe a cure for a disease or a new treatment for disease.
Mm-hmm.
So we let you know what that is, and usually most of the trials will have windows for visits. So something comes up and your appointment's tomorrow, but you can't be there tomorrow. You call us and let us know, and we say, well, we'll see you on Monday then. That'll work, that kind of thing. So, but it just depends on the trial as to how much time commitment you have.
Dr. Doug Denham of Texas Clinical Trials is our guest this week on the program, discussing how clinical trials help to bring new treatments, new drugs to the medical field that can make for longer lives. On average, how many different trials go on at your organization at any given time?
We probably have 10 to 15 trials going on at any one time. Some of those are scattered across different indications, like we talked about women's health, psychiatry, diabetes. And some of them are just beginning, some of them are in the middle, some of them are kind of finishing up. So it's a pretty busy place. We keep ourselves pretty active.
Does Clinical Trials of Texas make any evaluations of what happened, or is it just raw data from those clinical trials that goes to the drug maker and then continues on through the process?
We're providing the raw data for them. Yes, they'll do all the analysis on it and things like that. Obviously, we're their eyes, if you want to think about it, on the subjects that we're working with. So we're looking for any serious issues that maybe come up, safety, problems that we're seeing. Are they having a lot of vomiting? Are they having fevers? Are they having reactions, those kind of things. So we're kind of the first guy on the scene to sue and let those folks know immediately if that's something. And in a trial, if something bad shows up, we'll stop the trial right then and there. And, the safety of the patient is the most important thing.
Has that happened?
I've been involved in a trial where it has been stopped, yes. And it was a reaction that they were experiencing. This was a phase 1 trial. And fortunately, we didn't have any deaths, but it was significant enough that the sponsor decided to stop the trial. So,
we hear it takes years from development by the drug maker, testing, the trials, then to the FDA for final approval. Generally, how long is that window from start to finish, from a concept in someone's mind to the trials to approval? You hear that some medications can get out to doctors and hospitals fairly quickly, and others may take years.
Yes, correct. Yes. Probably the average is going to be about 8 to 10 years from kind of the bench when they start doing the basic chemistry to actually going and getting FDA approval. Orphan drugs are those drugs that are usually for less frequent or really unusual kinds of illnesses, but it may be a drug that will be very beneficial for the treatment of that. So they usually will get kind of fast-tracked, and they can come out much quicker, though.
What drugs has Texas Clinical Trials helped in conjunction with pharmaceutical companies that you can say help to bring new types of treatments to doctors and to hospitals?
Actually, since I've been there, none of the drugs that we've gotten have actually gone through the whole approval process yet. We're working with an interesting diabetes trial right now that I think will be they'll seek approval for it probably early next year, and I think it'll be one that'll be really great.
And when you talk about diabetes, that definitely touches a nerve here in San Antonio, because we hear statistics over and over again about the high amount of diabetes that we have here in San Antonio.
Yes.
And a lot of that treatment has changed over the years. A lot more people can stay active, but one of the main things about diabetes is just that commitment to diet and a good lifestyle that can make all the difference in the world. Can you speak to that?
Oh, exactly. Yeah. I mean, type 2 diabetes is genetic, but it's also related to obesity and lifestyle options. And you're right. We've had the distinction of being one of the fattest cities in America also. So I think a commitment to eating a more healthy lifestyle, exercise. Exercise is a very important component of our health. Interestingly, studies have shown that if you can lose 10% of your body weight, you can dramatically affect your blood sugars and your diabetes. Same thing with just doing a better job with your diet. So I think there are things that we can all do out there. And I think most physicians in their treatment of diabetes, that's where they start. It's diet, lifestyle changes, exercise, weight loss. I mean, that's a heck of a lot easier than making someone take a pill every day or giving themselves insulin shots and those kinds of things.
And with regards to diabetes, there are the treatments have changed over the years, where people had to have injections, every few hours, to now they have these devices where the people don't necessarily have to do these injections every few hours or so. It's automatically dispensed, and you see the little cartridges and things like that. So the treatment of diabetes has changed over the years.
Oh yes. I think we've made some great strides in our treatment. Insulin pumps now are great for type 1 diabetics and even for some type 2 diabetics. Newer medications that are doing a better job of bringing blood pressure, or blood sugars under control with less medication. We're making great strides, and the research is ongoing, and I think they're closing in on a cure for this.
What about juvenile diabetes?
We don't do a lot of type 1 diabetes, juvenile diabetes studies, because that's a smaller population. But they are actively engaged. At the research that I worked at before, we did do some type 1 diabetes trials with some innovative therapies, and I know that's a big area of research for the Juvenile Diabetes Association.
Dr. Doug Denham of Texas Clinical Trials is our guest. Doc, without getting too political, do you feel that the changes that are going on with healthcare with regards to insurance, do you think that's going to help or hinder getting new drugs out to the marketplace and getting insurance companies to cover those drugs?
I don't think it's going to hinder it a whole lot, to be honest with you. I mean, we still need the medications. Right. Definitely getting things paid for and getting on formularies, that may become a little more difficult, but I think, too, that'll be part of the pharmaceutical industry's job to make sure that the medications that they bring out will be conducive and helpful, and that will get the insurance companies to want to use their medications. Because, if you get a medicine that controls the diabetes, the cost of diabetes is not the medicines. Mm-hmm. It's the sequelae of it, the kidney damage, the eye damage, the strokes, the heart attacks, the neuropathy, the amputations, all those things that go on people who don't have good control of their diabetes, particularly over long periods of time. So if, it makes more sense to spend, $100 a month on a medication if it's going to bring your blood sugars down and control you and preventing you from having those things where you need I don't know what the most recent cost for a heart attack is, but I'm sure it's several $100,000. So you multiply that by a fair number of people, you save a little bit of money at $100 a month on a medication.
Certainly.
So I think in the long run it will benefit all of us. It's going to be a rough road.
In
transitioning, but it's going to be one of those things that I think too, people need to learn to use their insurance a little differently. Here in America, we've always kind of traditionally used insurance as, when I get sick, I go to the doctor. And one of the main aims behind the new healthcare law is preventative medicine. We've talked about as family practice doctors for years, and it's just hard to get people to come in. I think we take better care of our cars than we do ourselves.
Whether it be cholesterol or whether it be
high blood pressure. Yeah, I mean, all those things. I mean, simple things that, going in to see your doctor once or twice a year, maybe, just to get those things monitored and checked. If your cholesterol's high, he can give you a medication, or she can give you a medication that'll control that. Prevent those long-term consequences of your blood, your arteries in your heart clogging up, your arteries in your neck clogging up. Prevent that heart attack, prevent that stroke. Those are the things that in the long run, I think will benefit us as a population the most.
Do you think that will help the business of medical trials to be able to encourage new drug development?
I think so, because some of the drugs that we're looking at are looking at better ways to treat those kinds of conditions. high blood pressure, cholesterol. So, I mean, those are the ones that cause the problems in the long run. So if we can find better medications to monitor those. I mean, the average blood pressure patient probably takes 2 to 3 blood pressure medicines now to control their blood pressure. If we could come up with one blood pressure medicine that does it, that would be great. So I think there's still room for research. It may change a little bit, but it'll still be exciting.
How many people, let me ask you this question. Are there people out there who, I guess, are professional trial clients? That's all they do to earn an income?
There are. A lot of the phase 1 studies have folks that are multiple, they've done multiple trials in their lifetime. Yeah. Phase 1 trials tend to pay a fairly substantial amount of money. You can get several $1,000s for a phase 1 trial. Outpatient trials don't pay nearly that much because we're not taking up as much as your time. So there are people that do that. And that is a problem in the industry, quite honestly, because after a while you begin to wonder, are you really getting a sampling of the population to see how this drug will perform? And unfortunately, some of those people actually will do multiple trials at a time.
And they may go to your agency for one trial and go someplace else.
Right.
And
so is company A's drug really doing it, or is it company B's drug, or are they actually even taking company A and company B's drug anyway? Maybe they're just going home and throwing the pills in the trash, and so we may not. There may be drugs out there that got thrown away because they didn't see any effect in them in some of these things. Now, I don't think that's really the case because we're not talking about that big a population. But really, I would say, for folks listening out there, if you have a health condition and are being treated for it, and one of the best ways that you can give back to medicine into the community is to participate in a drug trial. Obviously, I'd want you to talk with your physician about it. But it's an opportunity for you to give back to medicine and what's going on before, because the medicines that you're taking today, someone years ago participated in a drug trial to help it get to you. So it's a way to give back to your community in a large sense. And in terms of risk and those kind of things, again, there's always some risk, but everything is done, believe me, to mitigate that as much as possible. I mean, the number of drugs that start out in the process gets weaned down very quickly. You may start out with 10 or 15 drugs that look like potentially helpful. And by the time you get to FDA approval, you're lucky if you've got 1 or 2 of those. So it's a process that is very expensive, and it also is a long process. But hopefully by the time we get to that point where we're actually trying them in humans, we've got a lot of safety data to let us know that this is pretty safe. And like I said, all the way through the trial, the safety of the patient is always our main concern.
For the first-time person that's ever been involved in a trial, there has to be, I guess, a little bit of apprehension and fear of the unknown, and this is a whole new thing to them.
Right, it is, and we try to educate the patients about it from the get-go. That's the informed consent is a very, very important educational tool. So, like I said, before you agree to do anything, you know exactly what we're going to do and how it's going to, how it's going to affect you for that time period. The other thing is, once the protocol has been developed by the drug company, it has to be approved by an IRB. We talked about an institutional review board. What that is that's an independent agency. They're kind of the champion for the patients, for the subjects. They review the protocol to look at it, see what is the drug company wanting to do to subjects. Is it safe for them to do that? Are there any risks that they feel are excessive? And they may go back to the company and say, no, you can't do this. And so the company has to do that. The FDA also will look at a protocol and approve it too, to be sure that they feel it's safe to put people into the trial.
If people want to get more information, or if medical professionals listening to the program want to get more information, where can they go and get information?
They can call our office, Clinical Trials of Texas, at 210-949-0122. They can also visit our website at www.saresearch.com. They can look at us on Facebook. We also have a presence on Facebook. They can like us. We like that. That makes us happy.
Okay, very good. Dr. Doug Denham has been our guest from Texas Clinical Trials. That's our program for this morning. I'm Stan Kelly. Thanks for listening, and hope you have a great week.